For the last 2 years, you've basically been told that artificial intelligence is this, this trillion-dollar game, right?
Yeah.
And you are just the consumer.
Yeah, just sitting on the sidelines.
Exactly. You probably felt like you're standing outside the VIP room of the most exclusive club on earth. Like you could hear the music, something completely world-changing is happening inside, but the bouncers are these massive tech conglomerates just telling you to wait your turn.
Right, and the prevailing wisdom has always been that eventually, maybe, these tech giants will bring you a slice of the cake.
For a $20 a month subscription fee, of course.
Of course.
But what if the moat protecting Silicon Valley didn't actually take a decade to crack? What if it just collapsed in a matter of months? Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today is April 28th, 2026, and we have our hands on a highly disruptive press release from a company called EON AI Ventures. And their core message to you is pretty simple.
It really is.
Yeah, it's that if you have felt, overwhelmed by AI, worried about your job, or just entirely priced out by the tech giants, the game just fundamentally changed in your favor.
It's a massive structural shift in the tech world. Like EON is calling this the Linux moment for AI, and it represents this complete inversion of how value is going to be created, and, more importantly, who gets to capture that value over the next decade.
Now, before we jump into the deep end here, just to ground this for you listening, this source material touches heavily on global tech competition. Specifically, this very intense race between United States frontier AI labs and Chinese open source developers.
Right, which is a hot topic.
It is. But this isn't about taking political sides or, cheering for U.S. tech over Chinese developers or vice versa. Our goal today is strictly to look at the math, the market dynamics, and the claims EON is making about this global race. Because the economic fallout affects your wallet regardless of where the code was written.
Exactly. We are looking at the pure mechanics of a market shift here. The technology does not care about borders, but the economics of how that technology is distributed that changes everything for the individual user.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the inciting incident for this entire structural earthquake didn't happen years ago in some secret lab. It happened this month, April 2026. The release of a new AI model called DeepSeek V4.
Yes. DeepSeek V4 was released by a Chinese AI lab, and the specifications are what completely rattled the industry. We are looking at a 1.6 trillion parameter open source model.
Okay, stop right there, because we throw around terms like parameters a lot. And 1.6 trillion sounds massive. But I know the source says it uses a mixture of experts architecture, which means only about 49 billion of those parameters are active at any given time. Wait, explain mixture of experts for me. Why does that make it cheaper?
That is the critical question. So imagine a massive multi-story library, right, containing all human knowledge.
Yeah, I'm tracking.
If you walk in and ask a question about, say, 18th century French poetry, traditional models basically turn on the lights in the entire building. They wake up every single librarian, and they search every single floor just to give you the answer.
Which requires massive amounts of electricity.
Right. Or, in AI terms, compute power.
Which is incredibly expensive.
Exactly. But a mixture of experts architecture, or MoE, is different. When you ask that same question, the system only turns on the lights in the specific aisle holding French literature.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it only wakes up the one expert librarian assigned to that topic. So you have this massive 1.6 trillion parameter library, but you're only spending the energy to activate 49 billion of them at once.
Now, instead of lighting up the whole building, you just light up the exact aisle you need. And the results speak for themselves, because the text emphasizes that this isn't some toy. It performs at near-frontier levels on math, coding, and reasoning benchmarks. It is production-grade intelligence. But you're saying the real earthquake here isn't just how smart it is, it's the cost.
Precisely. EON highlights that DeepSeek V4 operates at roughly 10% of the cost of U.S. frontier alternatives.
10%.
Yeah. And what's fascinating here is what this actually means for the global economy. EON argues that the release of V4 effectively falsifies a $1 trillion capital bet made by the U.S. tech sector.
How so?
Well, see, for the last couple of years, the foundational assumption of all that tech investment was that high-level intelligence would remain incredibly scarce.
Yeah.
And incredibly expensive to produce.
It's like the U.S. tech giants spent billions of dollars building this exclusive, luxury, toll road electricity grid. And the assumption was that we'd all have to pay the massive monthly fees just to keep our lights on.
Right.
But DeepSeek basically just handed everyone the blueprints to build highly efficient, completely free solar panels in their own backyards. You no longer need to pay the toll to tap into the power grid.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it. The assumption was that the U.S. frontier labs would maintain a massive capability gap, a moat that was measured in years, right? They banked on always being 2 or 3 generations ahead of the open source community.
And V4 just wrecked that.
Completely. DeepSeek V4 proves that the moat is actually only measured in single-digit months. The intelligence gap is collapsing rapidly.
And if the capability moat vanishes, the entire business model of renting out that intelligence collapses right along with it. Which brings us to the 2 competing visions for the future of AI that EON outlines in the text. They call them the 3 towers versus the 1,000 gardens. And according to EON, this new data point DeepSeek V4 decides the winner. Break down the 3 towers concept for us first.
Sure. So the 3 towers scenario was the old assumption. This is the idea that a few massive labs build an insurmountable 10x capability moat. They keep everything locked up in their impenetrable towers, and they vertically integrate everything.
Meaning they try to do it all themselves?
Exactly. They absorb all the application layers, your presentation software, your customer relationship manager, your document tools. The whole software as a service economy just gets eaten by the model itself. In the 3 towers scenario, the rent flows exclusively to the handful of people who own those central models.
And the text actually notes we're already seeing the behavior of these towers. EON points out that major U.S. labs are already geo-restricting their most advanced models from places like Europe.
Yep.
They're introducing these enterprise-tier pricing structures that systematically exclude the individual operator, the small business, the solo founder. They are actively consolidating power. But then we have the alternative reality, right, which EON calls the 1,000 gardens.
Right. The 1,000 gardens scenario holds that open source models, particularly these international models operating under severe hardware constraints and U.S. chip restrictions, they have to compensate through brilliant algorithmic innovation.
Because they don't have the brute force hardware.
Exactly. And in doing so, they drive the cost of useful intelligence essentially to 0.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate here for a second. These big tech towers have billions of dollars in the bank. They have infinite compute. If the cost of intelligence goes to 0, what stops the big tech towers from just absorbing these 1,000 gardens anyway? Why would they just pave over the gardens and build more towers?
Because when the foundational intelligence, what EON calls the substrate, becomes practically free, the center of gravity shifts entirely. The money no longer flows to the people hoarding the raw intelligence.
Because raw intelligence is suddenly everywhere.
Exactly. The value flows to whoever distributes, customizes, and packages that free intelligence into local, highly specific solutions. The people out in the mud, cultivating the specific gardens. EON believes the 1,000 gardens scenario has decisively won, and they explicitly connect this to a massive historical precedent. The Linux moment.
I love this historical comparison. For those who might not remember the 90s tech wars, operating systems used to be incredibly expensive, proprietary software. Microsoft, Unix, they own the towers. They charged you a fortune just to have a machine they could turn on.
Right.
Then Linus Torvalds and the open source community came along and created Linux. They made the underlying operating system, the substrate, completely free.
Exactly. And the crucial detail is what happened next. Companies like Red Hat didn't try to build a new operating system to compete with Linux, and they didn't try to lock it up either.
What did they do?
They recognized that free software is chaotic, right? It's hard to use. So they made billions of dollars by packaging that free Linux substrate into a secure, supported, enterprise-ready distribution. They sold the packaging, the security, and the customization to big businesses.
And it worked flawlessly. As the source material points out, today, 100% of the world's TOP 500 supercomputers run on Linux. Every single one. Let that sink in. When the substrate goes free, the free substrate wins every single time. And EON is saying that is exactly what is happening to artificial intelligence right now.
Yes.
The AI brain just became free Linux.
It's a profound paradigm shift. But of course, a critical listener might ask, is this just marketing hype from EON? Are there other independent signals backing this up?
Right, which was my immediate question reading this. Because claiming that the trillion-dollar Silicon Valley monopoly is cracking is a huge swing. And that leads us to what the source calls the convergence wall. EON isn't just throwing darts here. They're pointing to 7 documented, completely independent signals converging right now to prove this Linux moment is a reality. But they don't just list them. They show a clear chain of cause and effect.
Let's trace that chain. The cause, obviously, is the catalyst we just discussed. The DeepSeek V4 release proving the capability mode is gone. That's signal 1. And almost immediately, we see the ripple effect in signal 2. the Stanford 2026 AI Index.
Which is a huge academic report.
Exactly. It's an independent academic report, and it documents a massive order of magnitude collapse in inference costs across the entire industry. Basically, the cost to run an AI task has cratered.
And because that cost is cratered, we get signal 4. Wait, let me skip to 4 because it makes sense here. EON points to a joint piece by Andreessen Horowitz and Fortune showing that software moats are vanishing. The time it takes a competitor to copy your software has compressed from 10 years down to just 5 weeks.
5 weeks.
If you're just writing basic code to solve a problem, your business is completely defenseless. The AI can write that code instantly.
Which means the value has to move away from the code and into the deployment of agents. And that explains signal 3. The text highlights an April Fortune article about a guy named Sam Brown. Using an EON-style builder framework, he hit $300,000 in annual recurring revenue in just 12 weeks.
That's wild.
Because the software moat is dead, right? A single person can deploy AI agents to handle sales, fulfillment, and customer service at a scale that used to require a massive team.
One guy, massive leverage. And that connects directly to Signal 5 from Inc. magazine, detailing the slowly, then real fast nature of the AI labor transition. The thesis is that job displacement is happening, but the few individuals who learn to actually deploy these AI agents are going to win massively, regardless of what the broader economy is doing.
But the real kicker is why this opportunity even exists for the individual in the first place. If AI is so powerful, why haven't the big corporations already implemented it everywhere?
Right. Why isn't it everywhere?
That goes back to the Stanford AI Index, which identified an 88% agent gap in organizations. Companies desperately need AI agents deployed, but fewer than 10% actually have them fully integrated into their workflows. Large corporations are just too slow, and small businesses think they are priced out.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because even with that massive gap, is the industry actually preparing regular people to step in and fix it? EON cites Signal 6, episode 249 of the Moonshots podcast. They had tech heavyweights on, like Peter Diamandis, and they are on the record making a stunning admission.
Yeah, the quote is crazy.
The exact quote is, "We need a plan for a country of non-geniuses outside the data center." The leaders of the industry are openly confessing they are panicking. They have no plan for average people. If you aren't a savant coding inside a trillion-dollar data center, Silicon Valley has no blueprint for your future.
It's a striking moment of honesty. And when you top all that off with the 7th signal, the historical precedent of Linux completely dominating the supercomputer market. EON argues this isn't a theory anymore.
It's real.
The convergence is an operational reality. The substrate is free, the moats are gone, the big companies are too slow, and the tech leaders have no plan to help you.
So if the tech giants have no plan for you, EON has positioned what they call Door 3, also known as the Builder Program, as the operational answer. They're basically trying to become the Red Hat layer for the AI economy, stepping into that gap to help individuals package the free substrate.
Exactly. EON is offering a structured way to take advantage of this chaos. The text lays out Door 3 in incredible detail. It's a $975 90-day self-paced sprint. The goal is to turn this cost collapse of AI into a fully owned AI-native business for the individual founder.
Yeah.
And for that $975, EON gives you 5 specific operational assets.
Let's dig into these because this is where rubber meets the road. Asset number 1 is your leverage, 250 AI workers. The text says these are proprietary agents running 24 hours a day on a shared cloud, built on top of that free open source model substrate.
Oh, okay, hold on. I have to push back here. Managing 3 human interns is an absolute nightmare for a solo founder.
Oh, absolutely.
How is one person supposed to orchestrate 250 digital workers without their business descending into total chaos?
That is a very valid concern, and it's exactly why asset number 2 exists. You aren't individually tasking 250 separate bots. Asset 2 is your mentor and manager, the Brainy 2.0 AI coach.
Okay, what does that do? This is a personal, always-on AI with a face and voice. It acts as the orchestration layer between you and the workers. It helps you design the workflow, and then it manages the agents executing that workflow.
Okay, so Brainy 2.0 is basically your digital middle manager. That makes much more sense.
Yeah.
Asset 3 is your distribution, the EON Marketplace.
Yeah.
Because building a product is useless if you're just screaming into the void, all right? This gives you access to over 4,400 institutional buyers across 80-plus countries.
Yep.
And then asset 4 is the EAFI credential, a tamper-resistant public URL that proves your skills to the world. You own your track record, not a corporate HR department.
And the 5th asset is a distribution engine. This is a built-in pipeline that automatically surfaces customers for you, so you don't need to hire some expensive growth marketing agency. You have the workers, the manager, the marketplace, the credentials, and the lead generation.
It's literally a complete business in a box for under $1,000. But earlier, I asked what stops OpenAI or Google from just cloning what these individual builders are doing. And the sources address this through the 5 structural principles behind how Door 3 operates. This isn't just about playing with chatbots. It's a defensive philosophy.
Precisely. Principle 1 is agent proprietorship. You own the agents, and they generate revenue for you. You aren't licensing your core business logic back from a tech tower. Principle 2 is using open source models as the engine. You use whatever model works best, DeepSeek, Llama, whatever comes next, so you pay no rent to a frontier lab.
Principle 3 is vertical packaging. The raw AI brain, the substrate, is completely generic. DeepSeek V4 knows a lot of things, but it doesn't know the specific zoning laws of your local real estate market or the exact patient intake compliance rules of your specific dental practice. The substrate is generic. The package you build is specific.
Which brings us to the ultimate defense against big tech, Principle 4. Train on the customer. The real value of your AI agent isn't the underlying intelligence. It's the agent's embedded knowledge of one specific organization's chaotic, unstructured workflows.
Ah, I see.
If you train an agent on a specific clinic's messy internal data, that knowledge is entirely bespoke. It isn't transferable to a rival clinic. It cannot be commoditized.
And most importantly, OpenAI cannot scrape it from the public internet. They can't clone it because they can't see it. The messy local data is the ultimate moat. And the final principle is own the distribution. You maintain the direct human relationship with the school, the hospital, or the enterprise you are selling to. The AI model itself never sees the customer. You do.
EON is so confident in this structure that they back the $975 entry fee with a platform-enforced 4-condition guarantee.
Yeah, this was wild to read. It's not some vague legal loophole like satisfaction, guaranteed promise.
Yeah.
It's strictly objective. If you complete their 100-course AI fluency curriculum, attend 12 or more mentor sessions, submit a venture specification by day 45, and actually ship a live URL by day 90. I mean, if you put in the real work to do all of that and you have 0 paying customers at the end, EON refunds every single dollar.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, EON is a 25-year-old company. They have over 136 million platform downloads globally. They already have the massive infrastructure in place. What they were doing is leveraging that sunk cost to completely de-risk this transition for the individual. They are essentially saying, we have the audience, we have the tools, the substrate is now free. All you have to do is bring your specific human insight.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Let's bring this down to earth, because the source material explicitly outlines who this builder program is actually designed for. Let's look at the human element. First, think about the laid-off knowledge worker. You're sitting there staring at severance, scrolling through a LinkedIn feed full of ghosted job applications, terrified that your skills are obsolete.
For that person, Door 3 is a complete pivot. Instead of waiting in a broken queue to be rehired by a company that might just automate your job again in 2 years, you are buying ownership of an AI-native business. You transition from being the person deployed by a corporation to becoming the deployer of the technology.
Exactly. Then there's the highly skilled professional. The doctors, the lawyers, the educators. You have what EON calls vertical insight. You know exactly what the bottlenecks are in your specific industry. You know what's broken in your clinic or your courtroom. Door 3 lets you take that specific insight, package it into an AI agent using free intelligence, and sell it to your peers.
The sources also highlight students and recent graduates. We all know that traditional entry-level jobs, the ones that used to teach you the ropes, are being automated first.
Those are gone.
EON suggests skipping that broken corporate ladder entirely. Start as a builder on day 1. And for parents, this offers a concrete path. Instead of just vaguely telling your kids to, study hard for a job that might not exist in a decade, this is a demonstrable, inheritable path to actually owning a piece of the new economy.
And it goes far beyond just the individual, too.
Yes.
EON is looking globally at this dynamic. For international founders outside of Silicon Valley, and even for foreign governments, there is a profound realization that they cannot just rent their intelligence from U.S. tech giants forever. It becomes a matter of national sovereignty.
Right.
That's why the text notes that EON is offering what they call sovereign garden licenses for governments, starting at $50,000 to $200,000.
Yeah.
Whole regions can deploy this open source model locally, keeping their data safe and their money out of the hands of the U.S. towers.
It represents a total decentralization of technological power. from the individuals sitting at their kitchen table all the way up to sovereign nations managing their own infrastructure.
It's an incredibly dense and hopeful journey we've gone on today.
Yeah.
Let's recap how we got here. We started with a massive, highly disruptive, open-source release, DeepSeek V4, that completely shattered a $1 trillion assumption that AI would always be scarce and expensive.
Yep.
That release triggered the Linux moment, where high-level AI intelligence suddenly becomes practically free, shifting the value away from the people who own the models to the people who cultivate the gardens. And finally, we looked at EON's playbook, Door 3, which acts like Red Hat, giving anyone, regardless of coding ability, the tools, the digital workers, and the marketplace to build a customized business on top of that free intelligence for under $1,000.
It completely flips the script. It moves the listener from a posture of fearing AI automation to a posture of owning AI leverage. But this raises an important question, something we really want the listener to consider before we go.
Let's hear it.
The source material notes that for $975, an individual gets 250 AI workers operating 24 hours a day. Think about the mechanical reality of what that actually means. If a single person sitting alone at their kitchen table can now deploy a digital workforce larger than most mid-sized companies, what happens to the global definition of a corporation?
Wow.
When execution, the actual doing of repetitive tasks, writing code, answering emails, and that is free, instant, and endless, doesn't that mean your unique human insight becomes the only truly scarce resource left in the world? Your taste, your lived experience, your specific, messy, vertical knowledge of how your exact industry actually works. That is the one thing a billion-dollar model cannot download.
Wow. If the velvet ropes at the VIP club have truly been torn down and everyone suddenly has the exact same access to unlimited brilliance, the only thing that separates you from the crowd is your unique perspective on what music to play next. That is a powerful thought to chew on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Linux Moment for AI. Take that insight, look closely at your own industry, and ask yourself what you would build if the intelligence was free. We'll see you next time.